Chapter 12:05. Be careful of Lu Guan. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Everything happened too quickly. At the previous moment, the ancient sword dragon was still tightly surrounded by star fragments. It was charging here and there, roaring repeatedly but unable to do anything. At the previous moment, Yelui Kunxing was still at the other end of the battlefield. Star fragments were orbiting around him like he was the Lord of Stars. At the previous moment, almost all the Gu immortals felt Yelui Kunxing already had victory in his grasp and the battle was decided, because they were very much familiar with the scene that was unfolding in front of them. Before this, the 5 Gu immortals Yelui Kunxing had defeated in succession were all in this situation. Although there was no study of subconscious bias in this world, these Gu immortals' thought processes were almost the same at this moment. Then, at the next moment, Fang Yuan suddenly used Sword Escape Immortal Gu, instantaneously bursting out with an extremely terrifying speed. At the next moment, the ancient sword dragon had destroyed all the obstructing star fragments in its path and arrived in front of Yelui Kunxing. He opened his mouth and breathed out. Dragon breath. While Yelui Kunxing was still confident in his defensive methods, his whole head had instantly been sliced off. The human body was weak and had many fatal areas. Once the head was cut off, they would die. Even if they turned into an immortal zombie, their head was still a weak point. Yelui Kunxing immediately died. Fang Yuan smoothly grabbed his body. A portion of Yelui Kunxing's soul was also cut, and before it could escape from his physical body, Fang Yuan had already stored it inside his immortal aperture. The whole process went extremely quickly. Fang Yuan had already been plotting for a long time. Activating Sword Escape, charging in, using his dragon breath, and retrieving the corpse. The whole process involved 4 actions. But even so, after Fang Yuan finished these 4 actions, his whole dragon body had already charged out of the battlefield, reaching several li away. One could feel how terrifying his speed was. If it were a human body, it might have already burst from the enormous pressure brought by such intense speed. Fortunately, Fang Yuan had transformed into a dragon. But even with this, Fang Yuan felt quite a bit of pressure when he had charged. His vision had already turned blurry. If he had human eyes, they would not have been able to keep up with such speed. But Fang Yuan's eyes were dragon eyes now. Even so, it was difficult for his eyes to cope with this speed. At this speed, even Fang Yuan felt like he could not sustain it. If I am to move with this speed, I must use all my energy and concentration in controlling my body. Otherwise, if there is any deviation in my direction, who knows whether I crash into peaks or the ground at the next moment. This speed is too fast. One moment I am still in the air, and the next moment I am already several li away, Fang Yuan thought in his mind. He thought of when he had first gotten the sovereign immortal aperture and practiced colliding into southern borders mountains. Besides knocking himself dizzy, the whole mound and even the veins underneath had been destroyed. This speed was quite suitable for a momentary burst, but in truth it was not highly practical during battle. Once Fang Yuan used his fastest speed, he would have to use all his energy and concentration in controlling the ancient sword dragon body. As such, he could only perform some simple actions, or maybe rely on the transformed sword dragon body. If so, it would be quite dangerous. Because although Fang Yuan would have a sturdy and strong body in ancient sword dragon form, the sovereign immortal body's characteristic of non-conflicting Dao marks would still exist. Ancient sword dragon transformation is a classic case of strong offense and weak defense. Moreover, there is an extreme imbalance between its offense and defense. Fortunately, I actually succeeded this time and killed Yelui Kunxing. My luck is pretty good. First, I need to find a place to annex this immortal aperture before I think of anything else. Fang Yuan did not return, directly flying away from Bloodplane. The Gu immortals of both sides watched his figure dazedly until he disappeared into the horizon. The immortals looked at the messy battlefield with countless star debris, as well as many star fragments still flying in the air. Only then did they come to a sudden realization. Lu Guan, he killed Yelui Kunxing. Unbelievable. This is like a dream. Too fast, we simply cannot react to such speed. Regardless of the righteous path or Chudu's side, they were both clamoring in discussions. Gu immortals did not transmit their voices secretly, but directly spoke out, as if they could only release the doubts in their hearts by speaking up. Ye Lui Xiaojin was standing, dumbfounded, at the entrance of Golden Dawn Hall, like a statue. Just moments before Ye Lui Kunxing was killed by Fang Yuan, he had still been shouting and mocking Fang Yuan. Now these words he spoke out, as well as his actions, seemed to be like slaps that struck his face repeatedly and resoundingly. He was shaken and shocked, unable to believe this fact. Ye Lui Hui Hong also stood from his seat. His hand was still holding a wine cup, and his beard was wet from the spilling of the wine. Just the moment before Fang Yuan killed Ye Lui Kunxing, he had been sitting and moving the wine cup to his lips. But after the matter occurred, Ye Lui Hui Hong subconsciously stood up from shock, not caring about the wine cup in his hand, letting the wine spill on his beard, neck, and clothes. Ye Lui Kunxing was dead, an expert of Ye Lui tribe, a famous Northern Plains Gu immortal. Ye Lui Kunxing was dead. His death was so sudden that there had been no signs at all. If Ye Lui Xiaojin was said to be a future hope of Ye Lui tribe, then Ye Lui Kunxing was a current pillar of the tribe. But he had died. His life had ended here. This was an extremely heavy impact to Ye Lui Hui Hong and Ye Lui Xiaojin, and to the whole of Ye Lui tribe as well. This was an extremely big loss. Terrifying. Too powerful. He is indeed the second supreme elder of Chu sect. Such astonishing battle strength. Chudu really has an eye for talent. I had been looking down on Liu Guanyi just before. My insight is still too superficial. The Gu immortals on Chudu's side were all showing happy expressions. Despite them not liking Fang Yuan, the battle achievement was displayed in front of them. Fang Yuan had resolved their difficult problem, Ye Lui Kunxing, permanently. From now, there would be no such person in Northern Plains' Gu immortal world. Amazing! Elder Lu put on a pretentious appearance to incite the other side. Then during the battle, he lured the enemy into having a false sense of security step by step. He clearly has such strength, but he restrained himself until the last moment, when he dealt the fatal blow. She Wuhen heaved a long sigh. He was thoroughly convinced. Such a turn of events made him fully admire Fang Yuan. How laughable I was. I had still been thinking Elder Lu was nothing impressive. Sigh, if I was Elder Lu's enemy, I might have died without knowing how I died. I am still too inexperienced. Everyone needs to pay attention. This Lu Guanyi is extremely crafty. Be vigilant when you encounter him in the future. Inside Golden Dawn Hall, Nu Ergu spoke with a grave expression, breaking the long silence. Right now, as they thought back to Fang Yuan's performance, they all felt Fang Yuan was extremely insidious and sly. The arrogance before the battle and the weak display during the battle were just disguises so he could strike with the most fatal attack at the end. He did not make a move carelessly, but when he moved, it shook everyone. Ping Zi, if you run into this Liu Guanyi alone in the future, it would be best for you to avoid him and retreat. Nian Er Yifeng looked at his tribe's future hope and spoke with worry. Nian Er Ping. Zi nodded. Yes, I understand. I am only a sword child right now. When I become a sword master in the future and cultivate to rank 7, I will definitely have a proper fight with this elder Liu Guanyi. The righteous path Gu immortals spoke to each other. Ye Lui Kunxing died a miserable death. The whole battle was in Liu Guanyi's grasp. What we and Ye Lui Kunxing felt and saw was all just his facade. Sigh, who could have thought he had such strength? Elder Ye Lui Hui Hong, don't blame yourself. We will definitely take revenge for Ye Lui tribe in the coming battles. Ye Lui Hui Hong had already snapped back to awareness. There was one thing he did not understand in his mind. How was Liu Guanyi able to easily penetrate through the heavy lines of defense from Ye Lui Kunxing's numerous star fragments? He had sparred many times with Ye Lui Kunxing and was very clear on how much power the defensive lines held. This doubt was shrouding over Yelui Hui Hong's heart like a heavy dark fog. He took 2 large breaths. His face was still pale, but he forcibly calmed down because right now, he represented the whole of Yelui tribe. If his performance was not good, the whole of Yelui tribe would be disgraced. Lady Gongwan Ting. Yelui Hui Hong took a deep bow to the main seat. My tribe's Yelui Kunxing is of pure Huangjin bloodline. Sacrificing his life here is also a glory for him. He is a hero of our Huangjin bloodline. But now his corpse is still in his killer's hands. His soul also might still be alive. I sincerely request to come forward and recover Kunxing's corpse and his soul. Of course, Gongwan Ting softly agreed. Her attitude was straightforward and clear. According to the rules set by both sides previously, they could exchange corpses. But right now, Fang Yuan had already raced off to who knows where with Yelui Kunxing's corpse. Even if the righteous path Gu immortals wanted to chase him, they were too late. Thus, Gongwan Ting directly asked Chudu. Chudu was also surprised at Fang Yuan's direct departure and had already sent a letter to ask. Fang Yuan had such strength, Chudu still needed to rely on him. Just as Gongwan Ting had asked, Chudu had coincidentally received Fang Yuan's reply in his immortal aperture. I have great use for Yelui Kunxing's corpse. Brother Chu, if you have no choice, just expel me from Chu sect. These were 2 simple sentences, but they expressed Fang Yuan's firm and unrelenting attitude. Chudu frowned, but spoke calmly to Gongwan Ting. Fairy, you can rest at ease. Yelui Kunxing's corpse will definitely be guarded properly. I have already notified my sect's 2nd Supreme Elder, but to exchange for the corpse, your side will have to pay a price. Everything can be discussed. Yelui Hui Hong immediately agreed. His stance was clear.